Good morning and welcome to our presentation for Educational Management 1. This is a content-based presentation to prepare you for the upcoming August examinations. I must apologize from outset that there was a bit of a confusion, as you have noticed that, and we have rectified that confusion. This is why this presentation is now necessitated to be taken this time around. All right, as I said, that is Educational Management 1, and those are the various courses that goes together with Educational Management 1, EM11, DPP EM31. First of all, you need to concentrate on your study unit, the basic concepts and aspects of management. And I must refer you to the study guide every time. Please do not study this in isolation, but consult your study guide and make sure that the topics that you study are concurrent or are incoherent with the study guide that you have. First of all, in general, read all the learning outcomes in this unit. On completion of the unit, you should be able to master all the learning outcomes above. Bear in mind that tutors are not allowed to give you scope of work to be covered during examinations. You need to study all units guided by the learning outcomes. So we are not allowed to give you scope, and you need to study the whole study guide. I'm only highlighting a few important aspects that you must take note of. I will highlight certain topics students find hard to answer, as well as common mistakes students tend to make. All right, first of all, let us look at management areas of a school, or management areas of a school and levels of management. While studying these sections, note that there are various opinions on the different areas of management. And every time that you study, you should try to bring it into educational context. Many books that you will read, there will be management areas, but more in general. But you as a teacher, you have to make sure that the management areas that we are talking about are related to your field of study, which is education. Students are required to discuss this in the school context, so every time that you make examples or you make citation, that should be in line with the educational context. Seen from the perspective of the principal, management areas can be listed as follows. So in other words, managers in a school context look at staff affairs. That includes the curriculum and the teaching matters. Managers also look at learners' affairs. They look at physical facilities, providing information, that is what we call administrative management. They look also at financial affairs. They are also involved in school community relations, that is now the school and the community relations, and classroom management, where you as a teacher is mostly involved. So those are the different areas that we can say as a manager, of a school manager, you are more involved in those different areas. And then we have the levels of management, which is the top level management, the middle level management, and also the lower level management, or the operational management level. So about the levels of management, these levels of management are linked to the person's position or the person's rank in the structure, as well as the planning tasks or the function that the person is involved in. And all teachers are part and parcel of these structures. So in other words, if you are at the top level management, so it is expected from you that your function will be different from the person that is in the lower level management or in the middle level management. The same also, middle level management functions are complementing the top-level management, but are not necessarily the same. So your position and the functions that you are performing is determined by the positions that you have. Generic management functions, or the PORC, which is now the planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. These are management functions, and they are according to those abbreviation, which is PORC, planning. So as a manager, there will be an aspect of planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. In every level of management, those functions are paramount. And if you want to read more about PORC, or planning, organizing, leading, and controlling, the book by Van der Westhuizen, the page that is given there, you are going to read more about the management function, their tasks, and that is discussed in details. And then you need to look also at comparison of the management styles. And when we talk of management style, we talk of the democratic management style, the autocratic management styles, and so on. Sometimes we refer to democratic management style as participative management style as well. Now, after reading this section, you should be able to compare three management styles with one another, and also be able to list the differences as well as the circumstances under which you should use each management style. So we don't say a particular management style is more preferable than the other, but it depends on the situation or the circumstances, whether you need democratic management style or whether you need autocratic management style. And this is where you need to look at it and compare in which circumstances can you use a particular management style. And you also need to look at what are the advantages and disadvantages of these three management styles to the organization. If you read this in conjunction with your study guide, it's very clearly stipulated for you in the study guide, where you have the advantages, disadvantages of management styles, as well as the situations or circumstances in which each management style should be used. Your study guides also refer to management theories and skills. Again, read the learning outcomes of every unit, and note that we use keywords. These keywords are used in your study guide, and these keywords, you will also recognize them in your question paper. For example, discuss, explain, describe. And mostly when you study or you go through your learning outcomes, you will see these keywords. Now, as a tutor, when I'm compiling a question paper, I also look at those learning outcomes. In other words, what does the learning outcomes requires from you? Does it require you to discuss? If it requires you to discuss, obviously, in my question paper also, I will also use the word discuss. If the learning outcomes require you to explain, I will also use the word explain in your question paper. If it is required from you to describe in your learning outcomes, that is the same that I'm also going to use in my question paper. So as you go through your learning outcomes, you must also prepare yourself in such a way that the same keywords that are appearing in your learning outcomes are most likely to also appear in your question paper. Study the different management theories. There are management theories that are discussed under that study guide. For example, the management role theory, the system management theory, the contingency or situational theory, and value management theories. Those are the theories that are discussed in that particular unit, and you need to know them, you need to study them, you need to be able to describe, you need to be able to apply them in a particular context, you need to understand, because it's not only level 1 questions, but there are also level 3 questions where the insight of what you have studied come to test. So you need to study also with the aim of trying to apply those theories in a particular given context. Under the same unit also, it deals with the effective management of meetings. So you need to know the procedures and guidelines when you're conducting meetings. There are various guidelines that are given in your study guide. For example, if you are conducting a meeting and you need to make sure that everyone in that meeting's opinion is taken into consideration. What are the procedures? What can you do? What are the methods that you can use as a chairperson, for example? What are the methods that you can use to make sure that everyone's opinion is incorporated in the meeting and no one is left behind? So I need you to study that and familiarize yourself with procedures and guidelines of running a meeting. And also about professional development, or continuous professional development for that matter. It is very critical for any school's success. It benefits the staff and the school. Now, this is also a typical question that one can use, because everyone at school need to advance himself or herself in terms of professional development. For example, you are a mathematics teacher. You are not very well familiar with teaching certain concepts in mathematics. What can you do as a manager to promote or to make it available, to make continuous professional development available to a teacher that is struggling in a particular field? So you need to prepare yourself in terms of professional development. What are the possible things that you can do in order to advance professional development? And then the school as an organization, that is a broad term, the school as an organization, but you will see clearly from that broad term, school as an organization, there are various aspects that are discussed there. For example, the universal features of an organization. In other words, for a school to be an organization, there must be certain criteria or certain features that makes it an organization. And then we have also types of organizations. We have the school culture as an aspect that plays a very important role in terms of being a hidden curriculum. You will come at a certain school, and even before you read what the school stands for, you already feel the atmosphere in that school, and that is what we mean, that's the school culture. For example, at that school there is an absolute quietness. No one is in control of that quietness, but everyone knows that there must be quietness prevailing at the school. So that is a school culture, the way people talk to each other. And how the school culture could be positive or it could be negative, depending on what the school has nurtured, what the school management has nurtured, or what the school staff has nurtured. That determines the school culture. So school culture can be detrimental, or it can be used towards uplifting the school. And obviously we are looking at a type of school culture where it portrays a positive image of the school. And then we have the sections that are discussed there under Van der Westhuizen. which will give you more insight in terms of the nature and role of school culture as part of a school's hidden curriculum. We name it hidden curriculum because sometimes some of these school culture dynamics are not really written somewhere, but they are perceived to be understood by a certain school. And also the school as a formal and an informal organization, there are certain features that you can look at which determine whether the school is a formal or an informal organization. The school as a professional organization, there are also certain features or criteria of a professional organization. So you don't just stand up and say we are professionals or the school is a professional organization without looking at those aspects that makes it a professional organization. For example, you look at the pool of knowledge that is within the school system. It makes it a professional organization. You look at the training that management is having, which make it also a professional organization. You look at the code of ethics that are followed by that organization, which make it a professional organization. So you need to go back to your study guide and put all these aspects that I'm mentioning in perspective. That will make a school a professional organization. Right, and then we have rights and responsibilities of employees. Again, apology for the spelling of the word employees, and learners in a school. The rights and responsibility of employees and learners are clearly stipulated in the Constitution of Namibia in the Education Acts 2001 and 2004. Now, when you look at these rights and responsibility, you will see that from the Education Act, they are general. You need to bring them down to the school context. So whenever you study these Education Acts, or maybe you are challenged with a question that goes about Education Acts, rights and responsibility, you need to look it from the context of a school. So differentiate between concepts of a right and a responsibility. So what is a right and what is a responsibility? And I borrowed from the Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary. I have borrowed an explanation of what a right is and what a responsibility is. A right is a moral or legal claim to have or get something or behave in a certain way, whereas a responsibility is defined as a duty to deal or take care of something or someone so that you may be accountable if something goes wrong. So many a times learners tend to concentrate on what is their rights or what are their rights, forgetting that rights and responsibility goes hand in hand. A learner has the right to attend school, but has the responsibility. The learner has the right for education, but has the responsibility to attend school religiously. Just as an example. So rights and responsibility of learners, you must look at them as applied to school situation or as applied to school context. Management issues regarding secondary schools, that is also a broad topic, and under this topic, the focus is on practical issues regarding educational management and secondary school level. Issues such as what are the responsibility of the principals are discussed. Issues such as what are the responsibility of heads of departments are discussed. Issues of parental involvement and also information management are covered in this unit, just broadly. And then we look at quality control, performance and achievement of staff and learners. It is also a topic that is dealt with under this topic. Practically, this unit look at the day-to-day running of activities at the school. And an example of day-to-day running of the school involve rewards and recognition scheme to recognize and support individual progress and achievement. For example, of how you do it at your school. Right, we know that in every school setup, you have rewards. You recognize teachers that have excelled. You recognize learners that have excelled or that have shown progress. So a question like this one will rely on what do you do at your various schools. So you can read from the study guide, but you can also relate that to what you do in your various schools. How do you reward teachers? How do you reward learners? Which areas do you reward? For example, is it sports, academic, cultural, or whatever? And then the study guide also deals with financial management. In broad terms, it is essential that principal make sure that he or she is knowledgeable about the basic process involved in managing the school accounts, budgeting, and the system and controls that are necessary to ensure that the school monies are well spent and not misappropriated. This is a very important topic, especially for those that aspire to become principals, because irrespective of your financial background or training, you will need to deal with money issues. And you will need to know about school accounts, you need to know about budgeting, you need to know about controlling and how the system works. And for that matter, this topic is so important that you familiarize yourself with. You need to know, for example, sources of generating income for schools. You can analyze in your own situation again. What are the aspects that you can harness? What are the resources that you can harness in order to generate money? So what are the resources within your parameters of operation that you can use in order to generate money? So you are not just limited to what you read in the book, but you can look around your own environment and be able to cite what you read and what is practically possible in your area. For more information, you can read the book by Clark. It is going to give you more guidelines and some examples to that regard. Right, the unit, the study guide also deals with the health and safety management in secondary schools. The important issues such as drugs, sexual harassment, and bullying are all covered in this unit. So that goes without saying. Please go and familiarize yourself with the topic on drugs, sexual harassment, and bullying, how to deal with those topics, and what constitutes bullying, what is allowed in the work environment in terms of sexual harassment, and how to deal with drugs and so on. It also deals with the features of safe school environment, which include, for example, the fencing of the school ground as a way of also having a safe environment. It deals also with the issues of security and all the other controls that make the environment a safer place to stay. It deals also with the physical facilities, because these physical facilities can also cause harm to children if they are not maintained. Let's take, for example, broken windows. Broken windows can cut children. That's why it is very important that broken windows must be fixed timeously. so that they cannot pose health hazards to the children. Safety and health issues. What are the rules and procedures that governs safety and health issues? Hygiene at schools. This topic is dealt with extensively. Safety and security at schools. Those are topics that are covered under that unit. And then in general, the common mistake made by students, number one is that students neglect to study all study units thoroughly. They try to pick up some of the topics, and that does not work all the time. You have my presentation, that is a guide. Make sure that whatever I have mentioned in this presentation, you follow suit. You are guided by the learning outcomes. The learning outcomes have what we call the keywords that can tell you if it is about discuss, then you prepare yourself in terms of discussion. If it is about describe, then you prepare yourself accordingly. And pay attention to the meaning of verbs as explained in your study guide. This will not only give you an idea of the type of question to expect, but also guide you how far you have to study a given topic. Many students rely on Google to get information. There is nothing wrong with getting information from Google. The only thing that I always warn is take your learning outcome and see what is expected from you in terms of the learning outcome. So when you Google, then you go according to what the learning outcomes requires from you. Otherwise, your study guide is the proper document because that is already prepared for you according to those learning outcomes, and that is what the tutor is sitting with. If I have to Google something, I will only do it, but I will do it in line with what the learning outcomes requires from me, from you. I will not go anything beyond that. The other problem is the inability to interpret the question. Some students lack the ability to interpret the question correctly and give appropriate answers. That is very, very important to understand what the question requires from you. There are certain cases where it is just points that you need to list. There are certain questions where you need to have an interpretation. And that is the last type of questions that are actually posing problems to students. For example, a question not well answered in the previous examination that I had is a question like this one. The above figure clearly shows the degree of administration and management performed by the different levels of management. There you have on your right hand side the different levels of management. That is now the top level, the middle level management, and the lower level management. And then you have the two functions, which is administration on the extreme left and management on the extreme right. Now the question was posed like this: use the figure to clarify the relationship between administration and management in terms of hierarchy. Now look at the graph. You see administration and management divided by a line. So in other words, the comparison is between administration and management. But according to the hierarchy that I'm talking about is that top level, middle level, lower level management. First of all, you need to interpret that figure. In other words, you need to tell yourself, what is the figure telling me? You need to interpret it, and you need to understand what it represents. That is the demarcation of devoted vis-a-vis functions. administrative versus managerial in relation to hierarchy, top, middle, and lower level management. So in terms of the functions, so in other words, when you look at top level management and you look at the degree, I'm talking about this amount of time that a top level management gives to administration compared to this amount of time that top level management gives to administration. Clearly you see that in terms of hierarchy, top level management has little to do with management but more to do with administration. I'm interpreting it, I'm making a conclusion. But when you look at the middle level management, in terms of this amount of time, or alluded to middle level management in terms of management, and look at this one in terms of administration, they are the same. So in terms of time allocated to both management and administration at the middle level management, it's the same. But when you look at the lower level management is not very much busy with administrative issues. It is more busy with management issues, because we said we want to look at the difference in terms of the difference between management and administration in terms of hierarchy. So lower level management has more to do with management as compared to administration. Okay. All right. Another question that also posed a little bit of a problem to students in the past was this one. This question might not be in your study guide, but it is a question that I chose as an example. For example, here you have the Maslow's triangle of needs, but the question requires you to make it, demonstrate how you would apply Maslow's hierarchy of needs in the classroom situation. So when you talk about physiological needs, we're talking about hunger, shelter, and so on. But in the classroom situation, if a child is hungry, for example, what are the things that you are going to do as a teacher to address that need? For example, you may have an early break for that child to go and have some snacks, or maybe you may refer that child to the feeding scheme if you have a feeding scheme at school. So those are the things that you can do in order to answer that particular question. Unfortunately, our time is up, and that will also bring us to the end of our presentation. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the best. I hope that if you have some questions, you are going to approach me. My email is gkandetu@gmail.com, and my number is always on your presentation. You can call me, and I see also you have created a WhatsApp group. We can make use of this WhatsApp group also to communicate and to address issues that are not very clear. Please do not use the platform to confuse each other.